theme of today is life as an expression and politics. So first we're going to discuss life as an expression, because there's some beautiful scientist stuff that's coming out that with the scientists in physics are right now talking about, well, this is like 4, 5, 6 years ago, but they're talking about how life didn't start. It wasn't a random start of life when the cells got together, the original prokaryotic cells in the ocean, when they got together, as in our old belief has been that they got together and randomly created life. They organized themselves into structures and suddenly life took speed, took off. Well, what the later science is coming up with, which is way more aligned with my belief system and what I have understood from reading a lot of Hindu yogic scripts, or even old Buddhism. They are looking at the creation of life with an intention. And the way that the modern scientists are coming up with this, they are also saying that the energy of life was there before the cells became organized into life. So the cells follow the organization of the intention of life. And I find it really fascinating that even on a scientific basis level right now, people are starting to think outside of the box. Because the box, our modern box, there's been boxes for humankind on and off through the years, but then there's also been many eons or thousands of years without boxes. And sometimes the box, well, almost always, box becomes our prison, our mental prison. So if we think of Newtonian physics, as in there was an apple that fell from the sky, Newton saw the apple and he realized that there's gravity, and he came up with these laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics and these other laws that he came up with. And our modern idea of the world is basically based on those ideas, on his thinking. And what if his ideas were too limiting for how reality really is? Because, after that started, then we all had to fit, our ideas had to fit within these rules and laws of physics. And if something didn't fit, then we had a problem. But most of the time we would sweep that under the rug and get rid of it because, well, this other stuff works, so let's stay with this stuff that works. Well, what happens is we create a very, very narrow narrative, a narrow frame of mind. And a narrow expression and understanding of what life really is. Almost like, and this is another one to wrap your head around, like to try and wrap your head around. So, when we look at humankind, we look at one human life is around 80 to 100 years, right? 70 to 80 to 100 years. That's the normal average life length, right? Lifespan. And we look at how long human beings have been here. So what we know, modern history, we look back about 6,000 years, or maybe a little less than that, but to when the Egyptians and before that Mesopotamia and I forget the other, but there were 2 other civilizations, early civilizations. That's as far back as we know. Now, that's only about 6,000 to 8,000 years from now, right? Going backwards. Humanity, as hunters and gatherers, have been around for 200,000 years. We became agricultural about I think it was it 30,000 years ago or something like that? Or maybe, no, that was 7,000 years ago. So we have been here for much longer than what our modern history counts for. So we don't really know how many civilizations, how much deep thinking, how many deep experiences there's been before. We don't know the narrative that human beings lived with before. We know our modern narrative, and in our experience, we think we're so brilliant nowadays. We think that we are so intelligent that no other humans before us came up with anything like this. And on some levels, technologically speaking, we're very advanced. But when it comes to our deeper level of science, we're not that advanced yet. And yes, it's mind-boggling and mind-blowing, a lot of the stuff. But is it accurate? Is it truthful to what truly is there, what's really already there? Can we, in reality, put words, because words become very limiting. Words are not as all-encompassing as we want them to be. Our ego, our mind, our sense of self wants each word to have a very specific meaning. So you look at the candle right here, and if you want to describe this, try to describe the light of the candle itself, the burning wick. Try and describe what that looks like, what it feels like in words. You'll notice that it's not really, you can say hot, yeah, but is it hot like all around, or is it hot like, okay, hot in one spot, okay, and it's the color yellow, but is it really yellow or is it more whitish? Like, what are the colors going on here? And how do you describe the burning of a candle, the burning part of the candle? Or how do you describe water to somebody who's never experienced water? And then when we try to do that, we recognize and realize that words are usually not enough. There's got to be an experience. Words, and that's the same thing with like modern Newton physics. Words became too limiting for the totality of our world. So when we're trying to describe what gravity is, we're trying to figure it out in mathematics. We're trying to figure it out in these equations. But that's because we're trying to fit it into the box, the human box. And much like when you try to describe with words to somebody who's never felt or been in water, if you try to describe what is wet, what does that feel like? Well, it's cold on your skin. Okay, so it's like snow. No, it's not snow. It's water. It's liquidy. Okay, what's liquidy? How do you describe that? So, and when we realize that there is a limitation to our words, we also begin to realize that there is a limitation to our perception of our world. Like, there's no limitation to when you go beyond mind. When you go beyond mind, when you go into your stillness and silence, that's a free fall. You're in existence. You're in the movement of existence. You are the movement of existence. But much like the dolphins or like the raindrop or like the birds, they don't need to describe the reality to experience it. They just are. And we need to learn how to just be. Because that's where we went wrong, right? We forgot to just be. Because we think we got to fit every experience into the box of words, and you can't. And because the miracle of life is so much bigger than our words can ever describe. And I know this is kind of deep and hypothetical or maybe ethereal, but it's also very real. Because like our box has squeezed into this needs to fit into the box so we can understand it and feel safe. And then we have created a society with civilization completely cut off from Earth Mother, from the reality of life. And we have tried to create boxes. Like the society that I'm from, Sweden, they have tried to create a box of existence that's safe. So nobody ever has to feel afraid. So then we stay within the box, and as long as everybody stays within the box, everything is fine. And in reality, there is no box. That's all. We have made that up so we can feel safe. Like there are many illusions in our world, and on certain levels, like we can feel safe in a modern car. We've got 4-wheel drive, we've got ABS brakes everywhere, we got strong side impact protection, something. We have all these things going on. But in reality, if you fall off a cliff doing 100 miles an hour, there's not going to be much left. So there's an illusion that you're feeling so safe. Many people, I've seen people drive very, very crazy with modern cars because they think and even on snow and ice, because they think that nothing can happen to them because now they're in a modern car. And in all reality, that's an illusion. So, when we start to recognize that life is an ever evolving, growing experience of life itself, we can kind of start to understand that we're just a part of this wave of energetic movement through the world. And there might be ways to describe that in an equation in the future. But I personally don't believe we're there yet. Because we have to think of the big scope. We have to be the experience. We can't just go in and, this part of the experience is this equation, and this part is this equation. The nail feels like this, so we're going to have an equation for the nail. And then the ear feels like this, so we're going to have an equation for the ear. It's not really how it's going to work. We are that experience. We are the experience of life moving through our cosmos. Much like Earth itself moves through the Milky Way. So we move around our sun, and the sun moves around in the Milky Way. And then everything, and the whole Milky Way spins, right? So all the star formations and everything changes. So when we start to recognize and realize that life is so much bigger than we know, we can become aware of the gratitude that lives in our hearts, that we are, just because we're here, we get to experience this. We get to live this life here and now. For that reason alone, we are grateful. Because that expression, gratitude, is an expression of life itself. And that's the same thing when we go into why I don't approach politics on these forums. It's because I believe that your heart will tell you what you want with your vote, with your politics. And I believe that if I can help you, guide you to your heart, you can decide for yourself where you want to go. And that there are so many different theories and conspiracy theories and all that stuff that everybody can get into. And through my life, I've been on and off into them. And I realized that I don't know all the answers. I don't know the absolute truth of any of it. So instead of trying to spread it, I just do what I can to help you to find your heart and to expand our mind. Because that's all it comes down to, is expanding the mind, moving into body, becoming the expression. Okay, everybody, thank you. This was a longer talk today. I hope you're doing wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And we shall talk again soon. Namaste and aho.